Hi guys, so this is our video for Thursday, and this is a preview. All right, so that means this is what we're going to be talking about on Monday's class. All right, so sometimes our videos are recaps and they help us review, and sometimes they're previews to give us a head start into thinking about next week's topic or the next day's topic. So a rational number is a number that can be made by dividing two integers. Okay, so we've been talking about real numbers, and in the past few days we've talked about integers, and now we're going to transition to talking about rational numbers. And rational numbers are still real numbers, they're just a part of them. So what are rational numbers? Rational numbers can be integers, all right, so that can be negative or positive numbers. Rational numbers can be fractions, so things like 1/2. And in this lesson, we're specifically going to talk about terminating and repeating decimals and what they are. Okay? So first, in order to know if it's a terminating or repeating decimal, all right, we need to be able to convert. So to convert from the fraction form of a rational number to its decimal form, we divide the numerator by the denominator. This is just the top number divided by the bottom number. Okay, the decimal form of any rational number either terminates or eventually repeats. Okay, so we're going to test this out using calculators today. All right, so what you need to know is a fraction symbol really just means to divide. So this is the same thing as saying 1 divided by 2. Okay, so in this case, we have 3 over 4. That's the same thing as saying 3 divided by 4. All right, so we're going to do that in our calculator and see what we get. Okay, so when you divided 3 divided by 4, you should have got 0.75. This is a terminating decimal because it stops. Okay, that's what terminating means. It stops. It doesn't continue on. All right, now we're going to do the same thing for 1 divided by 6, or 1 over 6. So in our calculator, we're going to write 1 over 6. And we're going to see in our calculator we get 0.16. And the 6 keeps going, and then eventually you see at the end they throw on a 7. That just means it cuts it off and it rounds it. But we don't want to round it. When we want to write a repeating decimal, we're going to write it as 0.16. And what's the number repeating? The 1 and the 6, or just the 6? It's just the 6, so I'm going to put a line over the 6. So repeating decimal is a decimal that goes on forever and it doesn't stop. So in our calculator, it looks something like this. It just keeps going and then eventually it rounds it for us. So that's how I know it's continuing. It's a repeating decimal. Okay? So we're going to try that again with these 4 examples. All right? So we're going to write the decimal equivalent. So again, this is the same thing as saying 7 divided by 20. When I have a negative in B, I'm going to put that with the top number. But it doesn't matter which one. It only goes in 1, though. Alright, so go ahead and take a minute and write these out. So let's do 7 divided by 20 first. Great. What'd you get? Okay. And this is actually, you know what? Let's write them all out, and then we'll talk about if they're repeating or terminating. All right. Okay. C, 1 divided by 18. What'd you get? Okay. 0.05, and I see in my calculator the 5 continues, so which one is the repeating one? Is it the 0 and the 5, or just the 5? it is just the 5, so my bar goes there. So far we have, this is repeating, and the other ones were terminating. All right, so let's look at this last one. I see in my calculator it comes up 72727272 like this, right? So when I'm writing it out, what's repeating this time? What's repeating is the 72. So my line needs to go above both of those numbers. And in the last example, it only went above the 5. So it's always above what is repeating. All right, let's take a look at example 2. A class votes on whether to change their school mascot. How can you express this number of the new mascot in decimal form? So in a class of 18 students, so when that is our of, that goes on the bottom. So 5 voted out of 18. So we write that as 5 divided by 18, which is going to equal all right, and what's repeating is the 7. All right, so example 3, let's recap. What is the difference between a terminating decimal and a repeating decimal? So a terminating decimal stops, and a repeating decimal goes on forever. But it doesn't just go on forever, it goes on forever with a pattern. And that is the key word there. Okay? So now they ask us, is this number 0.345 a rational number? Why or why not? So we need to ask ourselves, what is a rational number? Okay? And I see it in decimal form, and we know that there's 2 forms for decimals. It's either terminating or it's repeating. So is this a terminating or repeating decimal? It is. Which one? It is terminating. So this is rational because it is a terminating decimal. All right, so that is our last video for this week. Next week, you are going to try to do these on your own at home.